I've always loved you and made you happy, but nothing else could come between. But now you've left me to love another, and you've shattered all my dreams. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken, so I hung my head and cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. I told you, I'm going to keep singing until you send money. I also take Amazon gift cards. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with the tonight's subject. I'm doing another best of type. If you saw an earlier one, I said where I was going to have to narrow down the subjects a bit because it's a little broad saying, favorite movies, favorite songs, things like that. So tonight I'm going to do John Wayne movies, which is a pretty broad category on its own. He probably made about 100 movies. And this time I wrote a list too, but I'm not going to do like top 10 or anything like that. I'm just going to go through some of his movies. But let me get this out of the way first with John Wayne. People feel a lot of different ways about him. He, by some reports, was a somewhat abusive father. I don't know, strict maybe. Definitely very often absentee just because of his career. He was a staunch conservative, which turns some people off. He was a big supporter of the McCarthy era Hollywood blacklist. And he was a war hero on screen, but never served. But I just mentioned all that to get it out of the way because I judge the movies on the movies. And, some of it a lot of it just doesn't have anything to do with the movies. I mean, I can still enjoy a Mel Gibson movie despite things that he's done. I will watch Miramax movies despite Harvey Weinstein. Not sure I could, if they would come on, if I could watch The Cosby Show. I think that show just had so much to do with his personality that it would be hard to separate what we know about him now. But anyway, as far as John Wayne, and another thing too with him, we have to, I think, put some of the films, we have to judge them on when they were made rather than by today's standards. Because you watch some of those movies and he was abusive to women, at least in the films. I don't know about real life. But I mean, spanking Maureen O'Hara, things like that. But it's like I said, I'm going to judge the movies basically for what they were at the time and how much I liked them. Now, like I said, I looked at IMDb and I went down through all his movies and jotted down some of the ones that I liked the best. And basically, the whole list except one is westerns. He made a lot of war movies, but I don't know. I think a lot of them were so cliche. I enjoyed them when I saw them, but when I think of them now, it's like I don't know that I'd go back and rewatch a lot of them. Although, although to be honest, I guess I have in the last few years. But anyway, the one war movie of his that I think is my favorite, and it's not totally a John Wayne movie because it had a cast of thousands, is The Longest Day. But I really like that movie because even though there's certainly historical inaccuracies, I like the way it weaved a bunch of the stories together. You know, it showed the different beaches. It showed the airborne landing behind the lines. It it showed not just the Americans saving the day, but it showed the British and the French, and it even showed things from the German perspective. So that was cool. One thing about it, John Wayne, who I don't know, he was probably like 85 or something when he made the movie. I remember seeing where the colonel that he was portraying at the time of the D-Day landing was, I think, only like 30 years old or something. But you figure probably anybody who was in the airborne would have been younger. You're not going to see a lot of 50-year-old guys jumping out of airplanes. But anyway, that's one movie. Now, just gonna, I will save, I think my couple of favorites till the end. Uh, here's one I like called Big Jake. Now, here's something I have to mention too. A lot of the movies I haven't seen them in a long time. So even some of them that didn't make the list, maybe if I went back and watched, I'd go, oh, that should have been there instead. But I'm doing these off of memory. Anyway, Big Jake. I always like that one. There was one of his typical cowboy movies, and I liked he was estranged from his wife. Can't remember for sure who played his wife. Might have been another Maureen O'Hara movie. They did a lot together. But his grandson gets kidnapped, and so they put out the word, and the Duke comes to town to go supposedly deliver the ransom. And one of the things I like about it is everywhere he goes, and he says, I'm, I forget, was his last name McCandless in that one, or was that a different movie? But, he says, Jacob McCandless, and people keep going, I heard you was dead. But that was a good one. That was sort of a typical John Wayne Western. Another, Sons of Katie Elder. That was enjoyable. That was one he made with, I know Dean Martin was in that one, and he worked with Dean and others. But the three brothers that come home because of their mother died, and they find out that there'd been some hinky stuff going on, and of course they have to set things right. And I like the remake of that. I forget what it was called, but I know Marky Mark was in it. They called it something else, but it wasn't a Western. They brought it up to date, but anyway, what else have we got here? We got Hondo. That's one of his older ones. That one was pretty good. Couple of I think his best ones. I'll put them together. They're both cavalry ones. She Wore a Yellow Ribbon and Fort Apache. One of Okay, Fort Apache, I'm pretty sure was the one with Henry Fonda playing the colonel who was, you know, basically had a stick up his butt and thought he could fight the Indians the same way you fought, the Confederates or whatever. And Swore Yellow Ribbon was a good one. Pretty sure that one had one of my favorite old character actors that was also in a couple of John Wayne's other movies, Victor McLaughlin. He plays the sergeant in that. Um, it was like now one that I didn't put on the list was I just forgot the name of it. Oh, The Quiet Man, where John Wayne plays a boxer, goes back to his Irish hometown, and in that one, there's a great fight scene with Victor McLaughlin that covers like 5 miles. Uh, let's see, what else have we got here? The Cowboys. That's the one where he takes a bunch of kids on a on the trail with him. Uh, wow, my brain's having trouble today. What do they call it when they take the cows cross country to sell them? Cattle drive. There you go. It's a cattle drive. And I think Richard Boone played the bad guy in that, didn't he? And that's one. Spoiler alert: John Wayne gets killed in it. Uh, what else have I not mentioned? Yeah. Now two. We're getting the last few are some of my favorites. True Grit, of course. That's one he got the Oscar for, and it was a good performance. Although I think that was one of those ones where they gave him the Oscar just because he'd been around for 50 years and they thought he was due. But it's interesting. I just saw. I think this is what prompted me to do the John Wayne movies. I saw a thing with Kim Darby, some kind of a Q&A. I'm not sure exactly when it was done. I saw it on YouTube, and it's like, oh my God, she's like 75 years old now, and the only movie I ever remember her from was True Grit, and she played the girl in that hires John Wayne to go after the guys that killed her father. Well, we got also Stagecoach. I mentioned that because that was his first biggie. That was, I think, maybe his first starring role. He'd been in a bunch of movies before that, mostly westerns, but he played, you know, like secondary characters in them. A lot of times I think he played a bad guy. Once he got famous, he was always a good guy, though. And Stagecoach, I think, was that a John Ford? That might have been when he started with John Ford. But I think it still stands up as a really good Western. And we got his last movie, The Shootist, which I thought was good because it was a movie about an aging gunfighter who was, nearing the end of his days. And it was being played by an aging actor nearing the end of his days. In fact, he died not long after. He might have died before the movie even came out. And I remember seeing, he co-starred in that with a young Ronnie Howard. And they got along really well. I remember seeing where he wanted to work with Ron Howard again, but of course, he died before then. Yeah, I will mention a couple other war ones that I remember enjoying like Sands of Iwo Jima and the Fighting Seabees. But again, I do think they were mostly, you know, so rah rah rah, yay America. That's why I say they were. Most of his war movies were very cliche. And I also, I'll leave out the Green Beret, even though it had the theme song, but because it was basically he was just redoing a World War II movie in Vietnam. Now, there's a couple others I wanted to mention for specific reasons. Two of them, Rio Bravo and El Dorado. I always got a kick out of them because they're basically the same movie. He made them, I think, around 10 years apart or something. But it was like they just took the same script and put different actors in. In the one, his sidekick was a young James Caan. In another, it was Ricky Nelson. I know Robert Mitchum was his drunk friend in one. I forget who played his drunk friend in the other one. But like I said, it was pretty much the same script. They just remade the movie. It's kind of like going off the theme a bit here, but another one of my favorite westerns, James Garner, Support Your Local Sheriff. And if you haven't seen that, it's enjoyable. It's a comedy western. Jack Elam's great in it. But then he also made one called Support Your Local Gunfighter, which was basically the same movie again. Okay, and one other I want to mention, it has to be mentioned, is it's called The Conqueror, where John Wayne laughingly played Genghis Khan. And I haven't seen it in, over 50 years, but if I remember correctly, they did the thing with they taped his eyebrows back like that. So, of course, oh, now he looks Chinese. It was bad. Maybe I'll do a whole video sometime on the old Hollywood stereotype movies, how they used to do stuff like that. Anyway, that's John Wayne. Like I said, no matter how you feel about him personally, he certainly was a big part of Hollywood for a number of years. And not much else I can say about that except, hey, if the singing's starting to bother you, send money. I won't tell you how much it'll take to buy me off, but you're not going to stop me with like $5 or $10. I'll just tell you that much. It's not going to be a brand new car, but anyway. Anybody have questions? Hey, and again, if you do, if you think I'm wrong about some of these, you think some others should be in there, go ahead and leave comments. I'm always hesitant to say that because I know the big guys say that all the time because they want you to comment. They always say like and subscribe and comment, and they make it sound like they want to hear from you. But actually, all they're doing is trying to influence the algorithm because the more people comment, these guys that are monetized, that actually counts towards them making money off it. But obviously, I'm not big enough for that kind of thing, and I never will be. So I honestly do want to see your comments. You never know, I might learn something, but peace out.